Welcome back, movie lovers. Story recaps here. Today, we're diving into a thrilling psychological thriller, Knock Knock, starring Keanu Reeves and Armas, a tale of desire, temptation, and the unexpected consequences of opening the door to strangers. Movie begins with Evan Weber and his wife Karen in bed, when suddenly their kids rush through the door with cake and yelling happy birthday. We get to know that it is Evan's birthday. The family are goofing with each other and having a fun time. Karen is a sculptor and Evan is an architect. Karen has a huge exhibition coming up that weekend and kids are going to go away with her. The whole family is enjoying their breakfast. Enter Louis, Karen's assistant. He brings a box of catalog for her exhibition. We see Karen taking a walk with Louis where she shows him the exclusive piece which she is going to display over at the exhibition. She provides him with the details on how to get it transported safely. Later, we see Evan walking Karen to her car. Their kids are already packed and waiting in the car to leave. Evan is home alone. That night turned to be a stormy one while his family is away. He is working on this new project. A knock on the door interrupts his solitude. On opening the door, he finds two young girls completely drenched. They say that they are looking for a person whose name he doesn't recognize. Girls make a solid case that they had only one phone and it got wet and not working, and if he could help them. Evan reluctantly invites them in and lets them use his. The blonde girl introduces herself as Belle and the other one as Genesis. On search, Genesis looks for the address and says they are extremely far from where they are supposed to be. Evan concurs and books them an Uber whose arrival is in 45 minutes. The girls consult between themselves and requests Evan if they could throw their clothes in the dryer. Evan agrees and goes to get some robes. Girls changed and Evan took their clothes to the dryer. On returning, he found that the girls had moved to another room. They have put on some music and enjoying themselves. Belle hands him over his dog and wait eagerly for Evan to return. On his return, they start flirting. They praise him that he looks much younger than his age and has a great physique as compared to any other 43-year-old dad. Evan gets uncomfortable and creates some distance. But when Belle sees the picture of his wife and tells him that he's a lucky guy, he relaxes a bit. Evan goes on telling that her wife is an amazing sculptor. That leads to Evan showing Karen's catalog for the evening in LA to the girls. Girls get impressed with his wife, calling them a hot couple and asking about their love life. Evan gets a little nervous, telling that he is not used to girls talking about love making so openly. To that, the girls laugh, saying that does make him sound old. Evan gets uncomfortable and switches seats again and checks on the Uber. Genesis starts asking Evan about Karen and how long they have been married. He replies, a while. To that, she asks if his wife is the only woman he has been intimate with for all those years. Evan replies that you commit to the person you love. Girls disagree to that. Belle goes on to tell her plans for her marriage. That she knows that her husband would want to sleep with other girls, so solution to that problem is to have a threesome. Evan gets extremely nervous and changes the conversation by asking the girls about their profession. Girls replied that they were flight attendants and they travel all over the world. Belle shares her experiences about her job and friends and finds a way to let the conversation back to lovemaking. Evan nervously checks on the Uber again. Genesis asks if she could use the bathroom and leaves. Evan and Belle are alone now. He goes towards his station to put on a record that Belle liked from the collection. Belle starts to groove on it. Belle tells that they made a lucky accident by knocking on his door because they were having more fun than they would have in the party. She gets Evan to dance with her and tries to kiss him, but Evan got saved by the arrival of the Uber. Belle goes to the bathroom to change. Evan collected their clothes and phone and waited at the door. When girls didn't arrive, he went to the bathroom to look for them. He heard them laughing, so he went inside to give their clothes. He was left shocked to find them naked, waiting for him. They make advances towards him. Initially, Evan was trying to resist, and he even begs them to get clothed as Uber was waiting. As they begin to touch him, it clouds his judgment, and he finally gives in. After waiting for some time, the Uber driver left the location, and the three of them end up sleeping together. Evan wakes up the next morning, hoping everything was just a dream. But he hears noises coming from the kitchen, so he went there. He found that the girls were making a mess in the kitchen. He gets angry and asks the girls to leave, but they just don't seem to care. Evan realizes that he has a small problem at his hand. Just then, Karen calls. He rushes to the yard to receive the call. The girls start messing with him through the glass door. To conceal that, Evan turns around and tells that he had too much of weed and passed out last night. After catch-up, Evan ends the call. He soon realizes that the problem might not be that small, so he rushes inside in anger and yells at them to leave. The girls run inside laughing, with no intention of leaving. The ruckus continues for some time. Then Evan tells that he will drive them. He gets ready and waits for them at the doorstep in anxiety. Not seeing the girls there, he went to check in on them and found both of them painting on Karen's sculptures. He gets furious and runs to stop them. He loses it and decides to call the police. Genesis warns him that it would not be a good idea as they were underage and he may end up in the prison for statutory rape as Belle claims to be 16 years old. Evan, on not finding a way out of it, offers them money. That offends the girls and Belle slaps him, telling that they weren't whores. Suddenly, Evan hears a doorbell and rushes out to answer it. It's Vivian, his therapist. She came to check on Evan, as apparently he had an injury in his shoulder. To her surprise, she saw Genesis coming out and addressing Evan as her lover. This scene makes her really upset and she leaves yelling out. Evan tries to justify, but it doesn't work. Evan rushes inside to find the girls are messing with his turntable with no intention to leave. Evan tries to force them, but they continue to mess with him. Finally, he loses it and pins Genesis against the wall. Somehow, he comes back to his senses and lets her go. He picks up the phone to report a break-in. Seeing that her tricks won't work anymore, Genesis disconnects the line and asks Evan if he could drop them off. Then we see all three leaving the house and Evan drops them off to a place which he told was their house. After Evan leaves, we see that they do not enter the house, instead walk in another direction. Evan returns and immediately begins to restore his house. He soon restores the place and felt relieved that the horrible nightmare was over. Evan resumes his work later that evening. He is interrupted by a sound of breaking glass in the other room. When he goes to check, sees nothing. On his way back, he notices their family photo on the ground. When he hunches over to pick, he is knocked out by Genesis. Evan wakes up in horror to find himself tied to the bed and Genesis putting on some weird makeup. Later, we see Belle entering the room with his daughter's school uniform. She throws her underwear on his face and forces him to look under her skirt. Evan was not complicit to it. Suddenly, his phone rings. It's Karen on FaceTime. The girls blackmail him by telling that they will receive it and show Karen everything. Evan begs them to stop and agrees to comply. Belle wants to make love to him. Genesis puts the phone on record and leaves. Amidst all that was happening, Evan finds a chance to push Belle down from him and free himself. Evan rushes towards Genesis and grabs her by her throat. Genesis manages to stab him with a fork on his injured shoulder. Evan cries out in pain and passes out. On gaining consciousness, he finds himself tied to a chair in the middle of another of their sick games. It was a quiz, and for every incorrect answer, they would torture him. While halfway through the game, they are interrupted by Louise, who is supposed to collect the sculptures for Karen's exhibition. Genesis introduces herself as Karen's niece and takes him to the sculptures. He gets very upset to see the sculptures ruined, and is forced to use his inhaler, disclosing his vulnerability. He senses something not right, and charges the girls and threatens to call the police. He gets startled by loud noise and tries to find out. The girls try to stop him, and in the process, they steal his inhaler. Louis finds Evan all tied up. He starts to cut the ropes, but after hearing loud noises of the girls damaging the sculptures. In the middle of the struggle, his asthma attack starts due to anxiety. Genesis begins to tease him with the inhaler. In an attempt to grab the inhaler, Louis slips and hits the back of his head on the sculpture and dies. On seeing the sick girls burst into a fit of laughter and begin taunting even the dead body, they drag Evan further inside and later covered Louis with paper, making an actual sculpture out of his dead body. Meanwhile, Evan tries to get hold of his gun, hidden in a vase. After all this, they resume their game. They wanted to prove Evan that he is a sick person who cheats and rapes. Evan gets furious, telling that it is he who had been tricked into this and is a victim here. The girls are in no mood to listen and tells that he will be punished at dawn. Then we are shown that the girls are busy digging a grave, apparently for Evan. By seeing all that, Evan got scared. After they are done, they come back in and finally reveal that all these events were not random. In fact, it was strategically planned. They were stalking him for some time and believed that their family happiness was fake and wanted to prove that he was actually a vile person. After dropping the bomb, they continue destroying his house and everything they laid their eyes on. During all of that, a vase falls and reveals a gun. Genesis gets hold of the gun and proposes another game. This time, it would be hide and seek. Evan will be allowed to hide, and if they do not find him till dawn, they would just walk away. The only catch is, if he gets caught, he will be killed. Evan makes a run for his life and takes refuge in the kitchen. He grabs hold of knife, but he acts smartly. Instead of confronting, he tries to escape. Unfortunately, he stumbles over an object and falls. He loses his knife in the process. Girls come running to spot and assures him that there is no point screaming as no one was home. Dawn arrives, and we see the girls rolling him to grave. They set him such that his head will be above the ground and bury the rest. Evan keeps on bargaining for this life. Genesis agrees on a condition that he has to tell his wife everything. Evan agrees, but as soon as the call connects, he screams for help. She disconnects the call immediately and gags him back. Genesis lifts up a sculpture to smash Evan's head, but drops it beside him. The girls reveal that they are not going to kill him, and it was all just a game, and they have been doing this to a lot of men, and each time it is the same. But before they leave, they delivered their final blow. They posted the recording of his and Belle on Facebook, and leaves the phone for Evan to see. Evan tries to delete the video, but instead ended up liking it accidentally. Later we see Karen and the kids arrive, and they are shocked to see the state of the house, but they end up assuming that Dad had a fun party. And there you have it, the unexpected tale of Keanu Reeves falling a prey of unfortunate events. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more exciting movie recaps.